Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sim Sundays. It's just me again this week. It kind of pains me a little bit to say it. Chris is in Hawaii. He's in Hawaii because that's something you do when you live in North America. So, Chris, if you're listening and watching, I hope you're having a great time in Hawaii. So it's just me this week, and I am joined by Dave Cam. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I mean, it's not bad in the northeast of England either, is it? I mean, northeast of England, Hawaii.
Right. Yeah, I messaged you this morning. So we're both from a very similar part of the world, and there's a go-kart track local to both of us. And I said, I've tried to get you to come along a couple of times. I'm not sure it's for you. But you didn't seem keen. And I was going to message again this week to say you should come along. It'd be great fun. And it was raining so hard, and all you know. Right, exactly. You know what karting is like when it's raining? It's just absolute carnage. It was pretty miserable. But anyway,
I'm up for it though. I'll just put it out there. I am up for it. I am up for some karting at some point.
Well, we should do it.
Yes,
It's a good track. Karting Northeast, little plug.
Yes.
And actually, you know what? I was going to start by mentioning the one time that we'd met, which was the Sim Racing Expo. And I was kind of going to use that as a segue into this beautifully prepared interview that I've got lined up. But you know what I've just realized talking about Karting Northeast is that actually we haven't met so much before, but
yeah, I remember you told me this story. Yeah, you were watching me eating my bacon sandwich, weren't you? That's what you were doing. You were drooling over my bacon butty with brown sauce.
Honestly, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is the weirdest fanboy story ever. So I was on my way to the karting track in Sunderland, and on the way there, as I do, bit of pre-race, athlete's energy, I stopped to got a McDonald's. And I remember getting out of the car for some reason. I was just sat there just having like a coffee and a whatever, some kind of sandwich. And I looked over, and I think you and Mrs. Dave Cam was sat in the car looking straight across at me. I had my Grid Finder hoodie, and I was like, right, I've lingered here too long. I can't walk over now because I think he's seen me. And if I just linger and then wander over and say hello,
too long.
David, like, oh God, it's one of my sim racing fans. they found me. They found me in Sunderland.
You should have popped over. I would have shared my hash brown. I would have shared my Mackey's hash brown.
They are magical. Actually,
they are indeed.
I had two this morning. But anyway, let's not get into all that. So we met a year ago at the Sim Racing Expo.
Yep, we did.
And it was at a strange time, right? Because it was just post-COVID, and your channel has seen a massive rise, and a lot of sim racing has seen a huge boom. And the Sim Racing Expo was really the first time that everybody could get back together after COVID, and everyone kind of got back together. All the hardware manufacturers were there, and there was a lot of streamers. I remember seeing Gamer Muscle with his selfie stick for like a solid 25, 30 hours running around, and you and Mrs. Dave Cam were there, and we had a good time. We went to the esports lounge in the evening, and we did the 24 hours the Nürburgring challenge. Won by it was won by Jimmy Broadbent.
I think Jimmy won that, didn't
he? Jimmy did win it, yeah. But it was a great community event, and it was the first time that I'd been to something like this, where it was an event put on by an industry, and all the people who have some kind of stake in the industry were there, and it's all sorts of people. It's streamers, it was racers, it was hardware producers. How much of that have you managed to build into your streaming career?
I mean, that was the first event like that I'd been to, because I've not been sim racing that long. 5.5 years. That's all I've been doing. And that was the first time I had a chance to go to the Expo, and it was incredible. I mean, I've always been a motorcyclist, and I've always gone out on a Sunday with friends, and you'd go to a bike meet, and it was a very similar vibe. You all had this common interest. So it was like us bikers meeting up, and whoever it was, whatever bike you rode, a little nod of the head, you were all on the same page. And it was very similar at the Expo. We were all kind of linked with this weird little hobby that we've got, and we all shared this very similar passion, no matter who you were or what sim you liked. With regards to bringing it into the community, well, I don't really think too much about things like that. I'm just a sim racer, exactly the same as anybody else that sim races. I'm exactly the same. So, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't really put any time into what I do. I don't think about it too much. Because I'm just a sim racer, and I just happen to upload my videos to YouTube. So I didn't walk around with a selfie stick because I wanted to experience it as a punter. I didn't want to be there with a camera. Yeah, I recorded a couple of very small pieces which I never actually used. I never made a video on my experience because I just wanted to experience it as a paying punter. So I paid, queued like everybody else, went in. I just wanted to do it as you would, a punter, and absolutely loved it.
It was. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next one as well. But you're right. I just distinctly remember whenever you queued up for a motion rig, they were particularly popular. The crazy ones that sit all over the place and doing 360 loop the loops and those ones. I remember lots of people queuing up, and whilst you were standing in the queue, everyone was talking to each other about all sorts. Because if you think about it, there's so much to sim racing. There's so much to talk about, and you're right. Everybody kind of had that shared passion.
Yes.
When you were there, there was always something to talk about. Whether it was the bar at the end of the day or whether it was in the queue. It was great, but it's interesting that you say that you haven't sim raced for too long, 5.5 years. Because I remember thinking this during our last podcast. I was like, when did sim racing really become sim racing? Because you could argue that in terms of technology, it really became a simulation. Maybe 5.5 years ago might have been about spot on, where the technology kind of got up to a stage where you could genuinely call it simulation. I had down in my notes here that I kind of always considered you the old guard. No, it's the old guard, which has a more kind of majestic quality.
I used to game back in the day, and Grand Prix Legends. I played Grand Prix Legends, so I suppose I was sim racing then, but it wasn't like it is now. I used to get on a wheel, a Microsoft Sidewinder wheel, and I used to take my computer down to my friend's house in his dining room with a network cable, and we used to race against each other and spin off lots on Grand Prix Legends because we were both rubbish. But that was as far as it went. And then I had consoles and played offline. I didn't play online, like Ridge Racer and things like that. And then had kids and then didn't game for, 15, 20 years. I had a console and played FIFA, but that's what happens. Yeah, you just you say goodbye to everything that you enjoy for 15, 20 years. And then in 2017, I thought, right, I'm going to build a computer. I haven't done it for a long time. So I'll build a computer. Then Steam wasn't even a thing when I last had a computer. You used to buy your games and put the CD in. There was no downloading as it is now.
Age of Empires 2, and you put in that key.
Little code in.
You always get it wrong first time, but that's part of the fun.
So then I discovered Steam, and then that was it. I found iRacing, and that was like $8.99 or something. I thought, that's a cheap game. I'll buy that one. Just had a gamepad, not realizing that was the subscription every month.
Yeah.
But then that was it. I downloaded iRacing, did one race on a gamepad. The next day I went and bought a wheel, and then a couple of days after I bought 2 more screens, and then that was it. Like, hooked. Snowballed from there. So
that's probably a journey that lots of people listening can relate to. You kind of start with the old fold up play seat. I can put it away when I'm not using it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, right, darling, we need to move house because we need a room.
Exactly. Yeah. There's three big screens coming in. So I've always liked games, and I remember playing a game at the arcade, the seaside with hard driving. It was like a big cockpit, but it had like a full H pattern shifter with a clutch and like awful. When I think back now, all terrible graphics, but it felt real because it had a full H pattern shifter and stuff like that. So I've always liked racing games, and I played offline like motorcycle games because I've always been a biker, but I've always liked cars, but never really, embarrassingly, I've never really paid any attention into motorsport really. Although I like the cars, I've not really been a motorsport fan. I've not been a fanboy of anybody in particular. I used to watch Rallycross back in the day, but again, just because they look cool when they're skidding around the corners, it's like nothing, like never really followed motorsport. The first motorsport event I went to was last year, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. I'd never been to a motorsport event before then.
So is it fair to say then that you got into motorsport through sim racing? I'm assuming that you're into motorsport now. You might not.
Yeah. But I wasn't a fan of Formula One until I experienced it in person last year and felt the atmosphere in Silverstone. And then it was like, wow, this is incredible. And it was probably, you couldn't really see much. You saw them going around once a lap, and you didn't know what was going on. Everybody was going so fast. But it was the atmosphere, the crowd, and I thought, wow, this is incredible. And then because I'd been once, I followed it, and then I got invested in the sport, and I knew who people were, and a little story between drivers and things like that. And then watched the Netflix series and
Yeah,
watched all of that and caught up. So then it is a bit of a story, isn't it? When you get into it, there is a bit of a storyline there within Formula One. So yeah, and then obviously touring cars. I've been to a touring car race, and I follow kind of a lot of things now, and probably a lot of it's to do with racing them actually on iRacing. You'll like Ollie Behrman, who races in F2. I raced him a few times, had some great races, and like all these racing drivers that you race with, and you think, oh shit, they actually race in real life. I'm going to go and watch. I'm going to follow them now. It's kind of taken me from sim racing into kind of following motorsport roughly, but I do enjoy it more now, definitely.
That's very cool. That's basically the same journey that I went on. It wasn't the hardcore sim racing that then led me to motorsport. It was actually the F1 game, which I played on a gamepad, and I got really, really into it. And even on a gamepad, you start to appreciate the craft that is racing. Even things like DRS, ERS management, fuel management. Well, they've removed the fuel management now, obviously, but fuel management and what a racing line is and what a pit stop strategy is. And I think probably most importantly, characters of tracks. So I remember being a kid, and my granddad, he used to watch Formula One all the time, and whenever I went to his house, we had to watch it if it was on the Sunday. And I remember thinking the old phrase that every kid has probably said at some point: "It's just cars going round and round in circles. It's boring." And I remember thinking exactly that. I was like, this is not for me. And then I played the game once. It was back in a former life. I was on an old naval base, and we were bored on a course, and we started playing the Formula One games. I was like, all of these tracks feel so different. Like they've all got their own little like personalities, Spa versus Austria. So I started watching them, and then you'd watch a driver go around a corner, and you'd say something completely moronic, being like, he could have taken that a bit faster, I think, or he definitely shouldn't be overtaking there, because now that I've played F1 2014 or whatever it was, I know
you understand where and when not to. And that's probably why I like motorsport now, is because I understand the craft, that I understand or kind of understand or can imagine what the drivers are thinking when they're going around, where they are and when they should make a move, when they should back out, when they should sit behind. And I kind of understand it more now from a driver's point of view, even though I've never driven a car on track in my life. I understand it a bit more just from the simulator.
So when you said that you bought your first simulator and you went straight for PC, and it sounds like you went straight for triple monitor. So you must have been fairly confident when you started that this was a bit of you. This was right up your street. Yeah,
because I couldn't believe it when I loaded up iRacing. I couldn't believe that the cars that I was racing against were people, real people. Because back then, like it was dial-up internet. When I last had a PC. There was, I think ADSL had just came in, so it was like, I don't know what the speed was then, 0.5 megabit or something. I don't know what it was like. It wasn't a lot. Back then, it was a massive leap from dial-up, so there was no real online racing. You could play. I remember playing Quake 2 or something online. But I couldn't believe that they were actually real people, and it looked as if. It was against the AI, there was no lag, everybody was where you thought they should be. So I couldn't believe that when I went on, and then I thought, crikey, I like this. And I was terrible. I was really bad, like so bad. But then I just couldn't stop. When I wasn't working, I was like just hammering it constantly, just hammering it. It was incredible. It was like the first year that I did something like 600, 700 races in that first year on iRacing. I was just hammering it every time I was off. I was like, right, that's it. Every time I had a couple of hours spare, I was on. That was it.
Do you think sim racing appeals to a certain type of person? Do you think there's a personality trait that kind of goes hand in hand with sim racing? Because it's kind of an odd hobby. That you get to a stage where you don't really make leaps and bounds in progress. It's all minuscule. So you could see how, for somebody with a short attention span, it could get boring, right? Especially if you're doing the same tracks over again, or an endurance race.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I've got into a hobby, whatever that hobby is, I always, go right into it. When I was into motorcycles, I was right into my motorcycles. I was in. That was it. And I'm the same with everything. Whatever I've done, I wanted to learn the guitar. I couldn't because my fingers are too short and stumpy, so I bought a drum kit.
Thing.
And I was right into. Well, I think so. I've got hands like pigs trotters. It's like so.
Handicap.
So I bought a drum kit. I thought, well, I haven't got the finesse. So I'm just hit stuff. So like, I just wanted to do something. So I think I'm very kind of. If I want to do something, I take it seriously. And I think a lot of people that sim race do that because the gains aren't that great when you've been doing it a while. The gains aren't. If I went and practiced, I'd be looking to gain a 1/10 or 2/10, over a session, which is not a lot at all, really, for the effort that you put in. You could spend an hour practicing and maybe gain a couple of 10s, 3/10. So I think it is a certain type of person that does it.
Yeah, you kind of. I think you have to be. I think you have to you have to love that relentless pursuit for the final 10th. Yeah, right?
And I'm quite competitive as well. I always have been. When I was younger playing sports, football and stuff, I was always quite competitive. Whatever I do, I want to win. But as I've got older, I think I've got a little bit more gracious when I don't. I probably would have, thrown a tantrum, years ago. And I probably did when I first started sim racing. The amount of times that I've pushed the talk button and gave somebody a piece of my mind. I was going to write them a strongly worded letter.
A formal complaint is coming. Oh, yes. What's it called in iRacing? A protest. I will protest.
You overtook me, yes. But now, so I'm a little bit more gracious now. So I'm still competitive, but I don't mind now if I don't win, which is a lot. But I'm kind of quite happy mid-pack, back of the pack, whatever it is, as long as I'm racing. And it's about the craft, and it's about kind of outsmarting somebody rather than outright pace and things like that. That's kind of what I'm into now.
Well, I was going to say, I find that your channel seems to you're kind of like your speciality, in my opinion, as just one of many viewers, is that you kind of straddle the world of performance and entertainment quite well. In that you tell the story of the race, but you're not just you're not just going into like a casual open lobby. These are kind of highly ranked iRacing high rating races.
Yeah.
So you're kind of covering both. You're kind of giving an insight into racing at that level, but at the same time making a story out of it and not making it too dull. Was that a conscious decision, or was that just what you?
Not really. I discovered that afterwards, and I realised that there is always a story to tell in whatever race you enter. You've got your own performance that you can discuss, and I don't do that consciously. But you can talk about your own performance, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, what you can do better. But then there's always battles in front that you can discuss. Cars are dropping back, cars are pulling away, cars are maybe too wide, or that might drag us in. The guy behind's catching, he's battling with somebody. I need to pit now, then try and undercut. So there's always a story, and that always unfolds during the race. There's always that idiot driver at the beginning that overtakes you at the start, makes it 3 wide, and you back out. Oh, we'll see you again. And then later on, lo and behold, you do, at the side of the track. So there is always a story to tell. And I wouldn't just sit there driving around, because that's of no value to anybody, I don't think. Unless you're super quick and you're going for the win. But I'm not. So there's got to be some story. And I just say what I'm thinking, really. I don't put any thought into it, and I probably come out with a load of rubbish at times.
Well, I was just about to say that it's because a lot of people will, when they talk about sim racing streamers, a comment that a lot of people make is, how do they do it? How do they focus on the race whilst also streaming and entertaining and engaging with the chat? But I feel like you have a slightly different approach, which is you don't necessarily engage in the chat in a kind of to entertain sort of way, to kind of like garner a community through the stream, through the live stream, because everything is on demand, right? So you use kind of your conscience, what would you call it, a conscious stream of thought whilst you're racing. You basically think out loud whilst you're racing.
Yeah. And that's weird, because if I do a race now that's not, if I'm not recording it for whatever reason, or if I just jump on, because pretty much everything that you see on YouTube, it's pretty much all a race now. I'll get on there and I'll do a race and I'll record it. So if I do one that I don't race, it seems weird if I don't talk. If I'm just sitting there, if the microphone's not here, if it's down there, it feels weird. So it's almost like a comfort thing now that I'm talking, and whether that helps me, it might help me kind of focused more, if I'm actually verbalizing what I'm seeing and what's going on. I don't know. But yeah, it feels strange if I'm not yabbering on talking about things and telling off Jim, the crew chief, and stuff like that. Yeah.
I love the crew chief. So, but has that developed? Like, so talk to us about like the first stream you did. There must have been a conscious decision at some point where you went, I'm going to stream my races. What was the motivation behind that?
Well, there was my son James. He's 16 now. So when we started, he wanted to be a YouTuber. 11 years old. He wanted to be a YouTuber. So I says, all right, son. Well, me and you will both do a channel. And he was playing Rainbow Six or whatever it was, Grand Theft Auto or something like that at 11. Responsible parents. So he's playing that. But I already had a YouTube channel, but I just uploaded some like motorcycle videos and track days and things like that. Just didn't use it for anything. And I had no intention of like uploading videos. Never in a million years thought that anybody would subscribe to my channel. Like never. I was just going through the motions, uploading a video, and James would upload a video to his. And lo and behold, mine took off a little bit. James's didn't. So I felt like a bad parent.
How did you hack the algorithm?
He's like,
what happened?
Dad, we're going to upload a video. I can't, son, I'm doing mine. I can't do mine. So I felt really bad. And James is, he's only got 100 odd subscribers, and that was pretty much all he got, and then mine kind of took off a little bit for whatever reason.
And do you remind him every single Christmas dinner?
Of course, yeah, of course,
nice,
yeah.
Nice. Quite right too.
Pass the sprouts to the YouTuber. yeah. So that's how it started, really. And I uploaded a video. There was no face cam on, but I didn't know how to stream. I'd just kind of watch YouTube videos, or James probably taught me actually, or set it all up for me. I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know anything about video editing, like nothing, like absolutely zero. Didn't know anything. I had computers before, but nothing to what I'm doing now. I'd never in a million years thought I would be able to do like video editing or stream or anything like that. So it was all kind of self-taught. It took a while. So the first video was like no face cam on. It was just me talking. I think I knocked somebody off, or it was at Laguna Seca in the Mazdas on.
Oh, nice.
On iRacing. Yeah, back to the roots. Yeah. So that's how it started. And then over time, I put a face cam on, and when I look back now, and it was like horrendous. The earlier videos, they were like really bad. Right. But I haven't changed that much. I've got some fancy lighting now. That's about it. I've got some fancy lighting, and that's about it, really.
Is that genuinely the only thing that's changed? You must have changed your approach. There must have been lessons you've learned about not the technical side of things, because obviously you're always going to iterate on that. But I mean, how you put together a video and how you talk whilst you're live.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so, because over time you realise that there's actually kids watch some of my stuff, and I always try and.
Interesting.
I always try and I put stuff out there, and I've always said this. I'll put things out there, and if people watch it, great. If they don't, that's fine as well. There's loads of other things on YouTube, and I would never be censored. However, I feel a little bit responsible if I'm effing and jeffing in front of little Jimmy, who's 9 years old, and then he goes and says that to his mum.
Sounds like there's a story here.
Maybe. Yeah.
Has there been an incident? Not an incident.
No, there hasn't. But I think because when I first started, I was a serving police officer. So, and I thought, if that ever gets out, because I kept them completely separate. Nobody at work knew.
Oh, interesting.
Nobody at work knew, and it was like kind of embarrassing because. I made a video a while ago about like sim racing and it was a bit of a satirical video about how it ruins your life and stuff like that, and I was pretending to cry and things like that.
Brilliant.
But in part of the video, it was like kind of all true what I was saying. Part of the video is like you won't tell your friends about your hobby because they won't understand. They're normal people, and it is a little bit of a niche hobby. And if you say to people, "Look, I'm driving around in a pretend race car," oh, by the way, my pedals cost more than X, Y, and Z. They'd be like, what?
Yeah.
So yes, I didn't tell anybody about that. So I kept things completely separate. And again, I was conscious of the fact that I didn't want to get pulled into the office or the superintendent's corner office on a Monday morning saying, "Dave, can I have a word? You've told little Jimmy on the stream to F off." So I was conscious of that as well. So I never told anybody at work, and there was very, very few people that knew in YouTube land as well, because there is a couple of videos on YouTube from my past life where I got an award and things like that, and some people had found that. They must have been searching Dave Cameron on the internet and found, this face, this moneymaker. They must have seen that on this other video. And a couple of times I've been streaming and they've typed in, "Oh, I saw this video of you," and it's like, "Oh, crikey! I don't really want the two worlds to merge until that was behind me."
Yeah, I suppose sim racing is still niche enough, or was niche enough when you were serving, that it would have been a very odd crossover to arrest somebody, and they're like, "Oh, I'm one of your subscribers. I'll be unsubscribing now."
Well, I used to go on patrol in a small town called Appleby, and there was a subscriber that he didn't know I was a cop, but he'd said previously on a stream, because I think I'd said in the stream that I was from Cumbria originally. And he'd said on the stream, "Oh, I'm from Appleby," and I thought,
"Oh no,
that was my patch. I was the community bobby for Appleby." I thought, if I'm on patrol in Appleby, and Dave Cam drives down a police van, like, "Oh, what do you do? What do you do?" But thankfully, nobody ever recognised me. Not that they would, but
that would be quite surreal. Occasionally, you get weirdos in the McDonald's car park recognising you, but
occasionally, yeah. But
thankfully,
if you ignore them long enough, they just don't approach. They just drive off.
They just turn around and drive off.
They just bugger off. Yeah.
So you haven't told your friends about sim racing, and that's kind of interesting, because I remember going through a very similar process with Grid Finder and sim racing, and I could never put my finger on it, and to this day, maybe I still can't. I just distinctly remember this feeling that if I told a friend of mine, "I'm really into sim racing, I've bought all this equipment, and I now spend quite a lot of time, and I race with these people that I've never met. I met them online. They're all gamers. They could be 15 years old. They could be 60 for all I know. Oh, and by the way, I'm starting this like website project where I'm going to bring them all together. This incredibly niche world." I'd have been embarrassed. I can't really put my finger on why, and I think it's to do with a stigma about gaming being for kids.
Yes, and the internet and meeting people on the internet, and I think that's what it all is. It's just, I've been talking to somebody on the internet. Just that sentence makes people think, "Oh, there's something wrong there. You're talking to somebody on the internet."
It's from the days of dial-up and AOL chat rooms, right?
Yeah, it'd be something like that. Yeah, ICQ and all that. I mean, that's a long time ago. That's a long time ago. That's before your time, before Messenger or MSN, or a long time ago. So I think that it is this stigma surrounding it, and it's the gaming thing. But since I've left the police, there's a couple of people that I worked with actually have YouTube channels that I've found out since. And obviously they're the same, keeping it to themselves.
Yeah.
One does like a podcast. I don't know what it's surrounded, but he does a podcast every week. And then there's somebody else that I've looked at his channel. He's got some right weird stuff on there. And I think, crikey, if people at work did know about that, I won't blow your cover, but like...
Well, this is kind of it in a nutshell, isn't it? Because if you stream, you kind of... You're essentially putting your personality out there, unless it's really like informational. But even then, you're kind of putting out your passion for something out there to be critiqued.
Yeah.
And there'd be nothing worse than putting together a video about something you absolutely love, spending the hours that you probably spend on your first video editing, because it takes forever to learn.
Yeah.
Putting it out there, and then your mates laughing.
Yeah,
just like that. That must be like soul crushingly.
Yeah. Oh, it would be. It would be.
Depressing.
Definitely. I mean, thankfully, nobody ever. Not that I'm aware of, but nobody ever saw what I was doing or realised what I was doing until after. And it was at Silverstone last year. I got a WhatsApp message off a lad I worked with, and said, "Oh, what's this about you being a big YouTuber or something like that?" And I think I was approaching 50,000 subscribers, and that was July last year, and I'd put my notice in. I was actually leaving the job a few days later. It wasn't long after, so I says, it's just a hobby, which it is, and it still is. It's not a career, it's not a job, it's just a hobby, that's all it is. So that's what I've told everybody. It's just a hobby. It's a phase, it'll pass. It's just a phase I'm going through.
Don't say that. Yeah, it's it's really interesting, because having spoken now to, I think this is episode number 14, so we've spoken to a lot of people in sim racing, and there's a real sliding scale of, I was going to say commitment, but that's the wrong word, because you wouldn't say that you weren't committed to sim racing, but you've just said that it's not a career move. So I'm trying to, what the best way of saying it is, but you're not, it's not your your whole raison d'etre isn't sim racing. Whereas for somebody who's an esports pro, for example, they might be thinking, well, this is what I want to do. This is my career. But the interesting thing is that I haven't seen a particularly strong correlation between those who are like, right, this is my career, this is what I want to do, I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to become a sim racing personality in whichever guise, so streamer, entertainer, racer, whatever it is, and success. And actually, a lot of the time, so someone like we had GP Laps and Random Call Sign, they, you know, speaking to them, they're doing it as a hobby, as you've said. You know, it's still a passion. They're not going full time on it. And I remember, I think it was after the GP Laps one, I was thinking about this, and I was like, why is it that people who seem to be really casual about it are having just as much, if not more success than the streamers who are full-time, devoted, are getting deep in the numbers, trying to work out the algorithm, blah, 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 blah. Why is that? And I think, and I'll be interested to see your opinion on this, but I think it's because people can relate to it more, because your viewers who are sim racers are very, very unlikely to be doing it as something that they think is going to be a career. They're doing it because it's their hobby. So watching somebody else who is also doing it as a hobby is more relatable. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I think if you're doing it as a hobby, you know, I think anybody that goes into YouTube streaming with that mindset, and it's been said many times before, but anybody that goes into it with the mindset, right, I'm going to be a big streamer, I'm going to make lots of money. I think that will come across to the viewer. I think everything will feel a bit forced. And I've said this to people before. You've got to be yourself from day one. You've got to be yourself. If you are a right boring sod with no banter, well, so be it. And that's it, because that's who you are. And at some point, this personality is just going to disappear, and you're going to be left with this, you know, what you are. You can't change who you are. You are who you are. And I've never kind of thought, right, I'm going to do something wacky. I made a video once, and I put a baseball cap on. I started talking like pumped. That's not me at all. You know, I'm just.
Why? I haven't seen that one. So without context,
I think it was like tips for streamers or tips for and it was like one was be yourself. Don't try and be who you're not. So this is me, right? So if we went to the pub, this is Dave who you'd get off. Went for a coffee. It's no different, and I couldn't be who I'm not. So that would be my advice to anybody. Don't get into it and try and be somebody else, because that does, you know, people notice that. People, you know, so Will from Boosted Media tweeted the other day, and he says, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I'd never heard that before, and it does. Yeah. So however you are will attract similar people. And if people are all zany, wacky in your chat, then you've got to try and keep that up. It'd be exhausting. You drive yourself absolutely insane. So I'm happy that I can plonk my backside in this rig and I can just be me, and I don't have to pretend to be anybody else. And anybody that's ever met me before, yourself, anybody, will know that, like, this is just me. I'm no different to when I'm in the rig to when you meet me in person, like at the Expo or any other events. Exactly the same. So I think, to answer the question, I think I've just come across, and I think that's probably why people, this fella's, he's all right, he's not trying to be something, he's not, because I think anybody that's switched on can see that. I think, you know, I watch people on YouTube and I think, why are they so loud? Why is he doing that? It doesn't need to do that.
When you turn the camera off, he's probably not.
Yeah, just bang, that's it, lights off, goes and sits in a dark room.
But you have experimented a little bit with the format. Right.
Yeah.
So you've done some, they weren't kind of tutorials, but it was kind of like lessons for iRacing, like things to think about when you start iRacing. Yeah. So at that point, were you trying to come up with some playlist ideas, or what was the? No,
it wasn't for me. That wasn't for me at all. But believe it or not, that was for the viewer. You know, I didn't. The views on those type of videos are down. You're not that I look at numbers, but the views on that type of video, like back then when I was doing track guys to start with, they were down, but it helped lots of people out. When I started, I remember doing a GT3 race at Donington on iRacing, and I was like right at the back, and I was completely out of my league, like completely out of my league. And I thought, what am I doing wrong? And I couldn't find anything to help. You know, there wasn't, I don't know whether, you know, sim racing hadn't made that, you know, big jump at that point, 2017, back into 2017. But there was nothing really. And I thought to myself, well, if I can share what I've learned in the 2 or 3 years that I've been doing it with somebody else, the little tips and tricks that I now know that I didn't know, If I can share that with somebody, great. And that's what I'm on. The amount of messages that I get, it's insane. But I always try and help, not blow my own trumpet, but I always try and help because I know what it's like to be in that position where you don't know your backside from your elbow, and you've got all this equipment, and there's a lot to think about, a lot to set up. So I always try and help where I can.
Well, there's a huge learning curve, isn't there? And I think that's
Definitely.
something that people like yourself definitely help with. So you got, especially if you start on a PC rather than PlayStation or Xbox, right?
Yeah.
Because if you start with a PC and you've not done a PC before,
Yeah.
and you don't know what a mod is,
Yeah.
you're gonna have some challenges ahead of you in terms of just getting on track,
Yeah.
and roughly knowing what you're doing and making sure that your wheel and pedals are calibrated properly, and blah blah. So, we in fact, an interesting parallel here is so Jem Hepworth, the 2020 Brit Car champion, she races with us in enduro car, and we've been talking a lot about sim racing, obviously. And she's got a sim rig, and we're trying to help her with the sim rig and setting it up and stuff. Now she's a racer. She's literally testing for W Series.
Yeah.
And there's so many questions she has about how to set up a sim rig and how to get into racing, and which community should I join, and what sort of races should I do first, or like what's the journey through iRacing? Oh, do I have to start with a Mazda? Oh, okay, or like a Formula V now. So if someone like Jem, who lives and breathes motorsport,
He's a racing driver,
then so is your average Joe.
Yeah, it really is a steep learning curve, and that's what it's all about for me. If I can share what I know now, to somebody who's just started the hobby, then I don't mind doing that at all. So, and I think that adds value to the channel. It goes hand in hand, because I think if you want to be successful or have numbers on YouTube, not that I really don't look that often. You've either got to be educational, you've got to be some value to somebody, you've got to be extremely quick, like a top esports guy, or you've got to be funny. And I don't think I'm either one of those really, but I kind of try and be a little bit of everything.
David of all trades.
Yeah, that's it really. Yeah.
Well, I remember, I can't remember if I told you this story before, but so when COVID hit, early 2020, previous life, I was stuck on a ship. We weren't allowed to go into any ports because of COVID. And I had been playing the F1 game before I left, and had kind of thought about sim racing. I said, when I get back, I'll have been away for 2 months. I'm going to get into sim racing. I'll have a bit of time off. And anyway, that 2 months turned into 5.5 months because we just couldn't land anywhere. And every time we went into port, we'd get phone signal, and we'd be able to download YouTube videos and stuff for the next stint at sea for 2 weeks. And I downloaded gigabytes and gigabytes of your content, Brit's content, and Dave Samsoid's content. And yours and Dave's, and Chris's as well, were so useful in essentially setting me up with all the knowledge I need. Wow. And I was obsessed, because I would be in my cabin in the middle of the Arabian Gulf watching like Dave videos and Dave Samsoid videos, being like, right, iRacing. I planned my career. I had a lot of free time. I had a lot of free time.
You must have had
the Mazdas. I like the GT3s. I'm going to go through this journey. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, blimey.
But I don't think I'm the only person. I mean, maybe I'm the only person in that particular scenario. But I think a lot of people who see sim racing as this huge, because there's so much to it. Hardware, software, even firmware. You've got to learn all of it before you can get involved. And those videos, I think, will probably stand the test of time.
Yeah. Hopefully, and I do. I genuinely want to help people. I genuinely do. I don't know why, but I genuinely do. Maybe something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I might not have been a nice one. But yeah, I do genuinely want to help people, and maybe offer something that wasn't there when I started, kind of, because I didn't feel bitter about it, but I was a bit like, why am I left on my own? Why am I struggling? Everybody's like, so yeah, I kind of had to figure it out, and it did take a long time to figure things out, probably a good couple of years before I thought, right, this is what you do.
Well, you're comfortable before you can just turn it on and go, spending 15 minutes setting
exactly, yeah.
So let's get a little bit specific, right? So I always had you down as the iRacing guy. You did iRacing specifically, and you've moved recently to ACC, or maybe not recently, but in my feeds anyway. Obviously, I am just a subject of the algorithm. I see what they want me to see.
Yeah,
I've seen a very specific journey from iRacing to ACC.
Yeah,
talk us through that. Why? What happened?
Well, iRacing will always be my sim of choice. That was the first one, unless something comes along that that beats it. But for me now, just because it's so diverse, because there's so much choice on iRacing, I don't think it can be beaten. Yes, there are things wrong with it. And even as an iRacing fan, I'll hold my hands up and say, yes, I know there are things broken with iRacing. But ever since the Spa 24 with the grass dipping thing, that really got to me. That I didn't like it because I saw it as cheating, really, from the teams and the drivers. I saw it as cheating. But I was a bit disappointed with iRacing because they had an opportunity to step in the first 2 or 3 laps and stop it and nip it in the bud. You know, put an admin in there and saying, look, we see what's going on. We're going to monitor it for the next few laps. If it continues, then we're going to start issuing warnings and drive-through penalties.
That's how you would have dealt with it.
That's how I would have done it. So after the first hour, everybody would have got the message and it would have stopped. Because as a viewer, because I watched the broadcast and I thought it was embarrassing because iRacing obviously wants to be the #1 simulator, you know, and be the simulator for all the big events, you know, the Le Mans 24 and whatever. And it just looks a bit, it looks bad.
For context, for listeners who might not have seen it, so essentially iRacing had an official event, but the model was bugged. So if you put some wheels on the grass, you would get an unusual, non-realistic advantage.
It lowered the tire temperature, but not the pressure. Or one of the, you know, a bit of a bug with the tire model essentially. So, and I did some testing, and even me, I was probably half a second quicker over the lap, 0.6 quicker, and that was the same with the esports guys. And I'd heard on the rumor mill that they'd all agreed before the race, no, we're not going to do it. They all knew of the exploit. We're not going to do it. And I think somebody did it in practice, then another followed suit. And then it just snowballed. Before you know it, you're in the race and everybody's doing it. So for me, iRacing had an opportunity to nip that in the bud.
Yeah.
Well, they could have done. There's no two ways about it, you know. And if that race didn't have a live steward, well, they should have thought, right, well, we're going to have one. Somebody's working 24 hours. Sorry, because it can't go on.
Well, so here's an alternative take. So sim racing tries to mimic motorsport as best it can, and it's not going to be able to do everything, but ultimately that's why it's called sim racing, right? Now in motorsport, stuff happens on and off track to gain you performance. So when I saw that, my initial thought was, oh, it's like DAS or the double diffuser. You know, Mercedes doing the old steering wheel back and forth. Like nobody's done that before. It's given them an advantage. It wasn't written out of the rules, so they've done it. But interestingly, the parallel there is that they said, okay, you could do it this season, but then that's it. Done. You can't do that again, which is similar to the approach that you would have taken, right?
Yeah. I mean, they knew, they'd been warned beforehand, all the teams, that they knew that they shouldn't do it. So they all knew. And not every team did it. You know, a few teams kind of said, no, we're not doing it because it's cheating. We're not going to do it. It's an unfair advantage. But the top teams, you know, they want to win. They've got sponsors. They want to win. It's just like any other form of motorsport, I guess. You know, you've got to put your team up there. You've got to win the event. So I think the teams, the drivers will just do what they do. You know, if their team say no, go on the grass. Because what blew me away at the Expo, by the way, was when they were doing they did the online race, and all the race teams, Williams Esports, Commander, it was like a real team with like monitors, like engineers. That blew me away. Yeah. Incredible. So I thought it was like, just like John Smith sat in his house, in his bedroom with his sim rig. No, it's like a driver with a full team. So,
well, I don't know if you've heard the Alpine episode that we did on Sim Sundays, but I was lucky enough to go down to the Alpine Formula One factory and record one of these episodes. And Guillaume, the esports manager, was telling me about the prep that they do and their teams do, and the physical training, and they said that they have these like these caps, these what they call their neural tracking caps to test people's reaction times as they're training, and they've got a partnership with I can't remember the name of the producer, but it's like a glasses. So glasses manufacturers that they have like for endurance races, they'll have one for night and one for day, and it's to stop fatigue while they're racing. Like the amount of detail that these teams go into. It kind of leads me to my next question, which is, you've been doing sim racing for 5.5 years. What's the biggest changes you've seen?
Pace with everybody and volume of people that are really quick. So that's probably because it's taken off so much, and It just everybody seems to be quick, and I don't think I'm any slower than I was. Everybody's just got really quick. I don't know if that's because hardware's come on. I don't know. I don't know if it's just everything's a bit more accessible now. I don't know, but yeah, everybody's just quick, and a lot more quick drivers in the top splits that you can't get anywhere near. 2 years ago, I would maybe sneak an odd win in the top split in the GT3s and iRacing. Absolutely no way now. Like no way. Like if I can get a top 5, top 7, I've done really, really well. So yeah, that's the biggest change, I think. And I think
that you think?
I think it is, because I think that's going to open doors for people. I think because we have seen that crossover from sim racing to real world racing. With Jimmy and James Baldwin, and you guys with the Ford K.
Oh, it's very
So it's
Jimmy, James Baldwin. Oh yeah,
and you lot, so there's definitely going to be more potential or more doors open for these fast guys. I mean, why not? If they are that super quick, and because it is it's a craft. You've got to understand what happens in a race. You've got to understand when to do something, when not to do it. And if you know where to put the car and you understand how to conduct yourself in the race, then I'm sure that'd be translatable into a real car, as long as you don't have that, the fear, that you might get in a real car. That's the only thing, the G-force and the fear of hitting a wall. I can imagine going over the hill at Cadwell, the jump. I can imagine, and I bet that took off there.
I was just before we started recording this podcast, I was telling Dave how we essentially have our own version of DRS in the 4KAs. So if you're behind someone, you can slipstream, and you have but because the engine tends to overheat, you have to have the heating on full. So you blow the hot air into the cabin, so you're absolutely sweating from about 10 minutes in. So most drivers have the windows down, but if you're behind someone, you're doing overtake, windows up.
DRS.
The drag is
DRS. Yeah.
You absolutely fly by. We're talking 85, 86.
Oh, that's crazy. That's nearly Back to the Future speed, isn't it? That's
So I can tell you from first hand, the fear is real. Have you got any ambition to race in the real world?
No, not really. No, I've never driven a car. The only car I've driven on track is the Nordschleife, and I did that last year because I drove over to the Nordschleife last year, or to the Nürburgring. Mm-hmm. So on the Sunday, Julie and I went for a drive just for it, and this is genuine. Julie thinks that I planned this, but I didn't. So we just went for a drive round after the Expo. I think it was about 5 p.m. Lovely evening. Drove round and found the little town, the Nürburg town. Oh, this is beautiful. This castle's gorgeous. And the next thing I know, I was in a car park with all these cars. And I said to Julie, "This is the entrance to the Nordschleife." Before I knew it, I was out buying a ticket. 30 euros, I think it cost. A little green card. Are you ready, Julie? But Julie did say to me, she wasn't happy. Wasn't happy that I'd bought this ticket. Didn't want to go on the track. And she said, "If you crash this car, as soon as we get home, you can pack your bags." Genuinely, because that was our way home. We were stranded in Germany. We got
the A5.
This is the A5, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I did. It was a nice steady lap of the Nordschleife, really slow. I was getting overtaken by. It was like a weird little multi-class race. There was like a little a Renault Clio would fly by, then a Porsche GT3 would fly by, and I was like, holding on for dear life on the right hand side, thinking, "Please don't hit me."
You don't want your biggest YouTube hit to be one of those Nordschleife compilations.
No, on auto addiction, definitely not. And I couldn't believe the curbs were they're about a foot tall. The actual curbs, I couldn't believe it. I thought, don't hit one of them either. So it was terrifying going round. I mean, it was amazing to do it. To drive this track that I've driven on the Sims so many times. But to answer your question, no, not really. I don't have any. I'm too old now to go into motorsport. I wouldn't mind a bit of a dabble.
Not at all. Well, there's always a space in the 4K.
I don't have a license or anything like that, and I don't know if I can. But yeah, I'd like to have a go. I would like to have a go, and I like to drive quick. And I've always I've been a motorcyclist for a long time, and motorcyclists are lunatics, aren't they? But there's a time and a place, with everything, and I do like to get, a shift on now and again in the car. But of course, time and a place. But could I transfer what I do in the simulator to that? Would that fear factor be a little bit too much? I don't know.
Honestly, I was shocked. I was shocked at the crossover. So obviously, before the EnduroCar season started, we got a mod for the Enduro. We actually used the Abarth as a base level, but then kind of detuned it down and went and did a test day at Donington. Then went back to the mod and edited it based on our onboards from Donington. So we got a pretty accurate mod. And the difference it makes in lap time is
really
because you're learning the track and you're learning even simple things like which corner should I do sorry, which gear should I do this corner in. So before this podcast, me and Toby, a teammate, we're doing 2 hours at Volton Park in EnduroCar, and he was saying, well, in this sim you're going down to second, but actually in the real world we're going down to third. So I was using third rather than second. Detrimental in the sim, but now on Friday when we go to Volton Park for testing, I'll have done several hundred laps, and then you don't have to think about the track so much. And the interesting thing is the braking points and the turning points, the gears you're in, are all pretty much identical. So there is, you can see why, your gentleman drives and the GT3s are all rocking up with sims hanging out the back of their trailers, because the performance advantage you get and the crossover is genuinely staggering.
I would like to do something at some point, but for fun, Well, Julie's bought me a supercar experience that I'm going to in Yorkshire at the start of next year sometime. So at least I'll be able to drive a car in a kind of mildly angry, I don't know, but I'm getting to drive like a Porsche 911s, cars that I really love, and I don't really have to drive them fast. I'm just getting to drive some nice cars, really.
That'll be a lot of fun. Now, you seem to have achieved the unachievable. You've achieved greatness in that Mrs. Dave Cam is Mrs. Dave Cam. So, Mrs. Dave Cam on so Julie.
Julie.
She has an account called Mrs. Dave Cam, and is sim racing next to you. So that's her sim rig in the background, right?
So
not only do you get your own sim rig in your house, you actually get to share this passion. How did that come about?
Well, I've only been with Julie for 5 years. So Julie and I haven't been together for
sim racing.
Yeah, funnily enough. But Julie and I previously been married, met
Did you meet in an online lobby?
Just on a so it was a multi-agency work thing. So I was police, Julie's obviously NHS. And that's how we met. But then I lived in Cumbria at the time. Julie was through in the northeast. And Julie, I didn't tell Julie about this sim racing. Obviously wouldn't say anything. And then after a month or two, Julie came through to see me in Carlisle. I was living at the time, and I said, and she tells this story quite a few times. She said, Dave said to me, I've got to tell you about this. I've got a bit of a strange hobby, and of course she had no idea what I was going to say, but thankfully it was just sim racing. That was it. But from that, Julie was happy to jump in the rig, straight away, a couple of cushions behind so she could fit, and she quite enjoyed it. Then we did a bit of a challenge, because obviously then I ended up moving over to the northeast, and we did a bit of a challenge where I set her a challenge to get around Bathurst, I think, on ACC in under 2 minutes 30 seconds or something like that. And she did it. It took her a long time, but then she just started getting more into it. Then I built her a smaller rig in the corner, but then Julie's now got SimiCube, the Huizenveld Ultimates, triple screens. She's got the Cube Controls rim. She's got like a banging rig, and she's no idea how good it is. I could have given her any old rubbish and she would never have known. But she's got like a banging rig there, like a big aluminium profile rig. And she loves it, absolutely loves it. And she started a YouTube channel just so we can document her journey, really. When I look back at when she started, and Julie had no prior racing experience or no motorsport interest at all, whereas I'd done track days on motorcycles before on my own bike. So I had an idea of a racing line and an Apex and went to Apex early and late. Julie didn't. So it's been really interesting to see Julie's progression from an absolute novice, and like when I say novice, I mean novice, not having any idea of revving the car up to the red line or like nothing. Didn't know how. She used to like short shift like 2,000 RPM as if she's going to the shops. I was like, no, you need to rev it until them red lights. See when them red lights come on, that's when you change gear. So and now she just gets on the rig and she's trail braking. She's banging it down the gear. She's revving the living daylights out of it, and she's putting in pretty decent lap times, and she's had a race win on iRacing before, and so it's really, really, it's incredible to share the hobby, because it is a hobby for both of us, and Julie coming in here shortly, she's just waiting for us to get on track, and you might see some little feet, in the background there, then Julie will be in that rig there.
So how did you find the coaching experience?
I don't find it bad. Julie will say otherwise, because, and I can understand what it must be like, because you get on track and then you've got somebody in your lug hole saying, no, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And Julie will say, well, you've just told me to do something else. But because Julie progresses, she's getting faster, now she needs to take a wider line, or she needs to brake a little bit earlier because she's carrying more speed. So as Julie progresses, the coaching has to change to suit that. And it's a difficult one. The amount of times that Julie and I have fallen out, and she's like, right, that's it. I am doing no more. I think we've probably had 4 retirements this month.
Wow.
And we're only at the start of September. So Julie's like, right, that's it. It's difficult to try, and I'm probably not the best coach, to be honest. I might not be the best coach. There are things that I could do differently when helping Julie, but it is difficult. And Julie say, well, I don't do what you do, and I'm like, I know you don't, but if you listen to me, we'll try and get you around. So it's difficult, but Julie has made absolutely huge leaps in a sim racing, definitely.
It's honestly one of my favorite journeys in sim racing to watch is Julie's journey, and it's something that I kind of attempted right at the beginning of Gridfinder to build these communities and leagues on Gridfinder for women only to race. Turned out that was a massively contentious issue. That's the only reason why. So we kind of abandoned it for the time being.
Right.
But I do think that people like Julie racing will help more women get into sim racing.
Yeah.
Because there aren't many. You don't see
there aren't.
women racing online.
No, there aren't at all. And I don't know why. And it probably is a kind of a male dominated kind of the online racing thing. It's for whatever reason. And I don't know if it would be intimidating to a female starting out. I don't know, maybe. And I know Julie's raced a few times, and she's came into contact with other cars, and it's been obvious to me that it's a female name that you're driving against, and the battling you hard, and you might not like it. So yeah, maybe. But there's definitely potential there for I think a W series, or like more women to come into the sport, definitely, because it is a sport. It's a sport now. Yeah. Like a legit, as far as I'm concerned, it's a legit sport.
Well, of course it is, and I always say that I think that sim racing is the most pure esports in the sense that if you're a pro FIFA player, you couldn't go out on the pitch and run around.
Oh no,
not necessarily, right?
Yeah,
and if you're a Call of Duty legend,
you're
probably not.
It might not be good.
No, Afghanistan.
No, you're not jumping out of a helicopter, are you? No.
Exactly right. Whereas sim racing, there is quite an obvious crossover. You're
definitely
sat physically in the rig, moving
exactly the same. Yeah. I'm doing no different in this rig to what I would do in a car. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that is probably the crossover, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. What's your plans? Where have you and based on our conversation so far, I expect maybe there aren't any specific plans?
No plans. I started this off with James, my son, with no plans to do anything with the channel. But as the numbers have gone up, and it's probably more the conversation that comes my way through the comments, that it's quite addictive. I quite enjoy that communication. I like it. Sometimes I'll say things that winds people up, and they'll have a bit of a nibble, but of course I'll have a little bit of a nibble back, and that's all right. It's fine. And sometimes people won't agree with me, and I say to people, just because I say something doesn't mean I'm right. I might be wrong, but just because I think I'm right doesn't mean I am. But then it doesn't mean that you're right either. It's like it's everything's subjective, isn't it? Unless fundamentally something's wrong and you blatantly are wrong. But so no plans. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I would like to, the magic number is 100,000 subscribers, isn't it? And what am I now? I'm miles off now, and I would never set myself goals or anything like that. I'm just going to keep ticking on if people like watching what I'm doing, I'll keep doing it. I do need to find a job. I haven't got since I left the police. I haven't got a job because I was waiting for surgery on my nose, actually, an old broken nose, and I thought I can't get a job, and then I have to say, "Hello, boss. I'm going in for surgery. I'm going to have to be off for 4 weeks." So I was kind of putting off getting a job until I'd had surgery, but I've had surgery now.
How long you get off for a broken nose?
No, but that's how long I would be off for, because I'm a wimp. My pain threshold is zero.
If you have an office job, I'd be like, well,
No.
what is it you can't do now?
No, but oh yeah. When I had my nose surgery, I was like, don't touch me, you don't come anywhere near me. But now I do need to get a job. I need to find a job. I need to find something to do. But I haven't figured out what I want to do yet. And this is kind of keeping me ticking over nicely. So as long as people are happy watching what I'm doing and enjoying it, then I'll keep doing it. If they're not, then I'll probably stop.
Yeah.
If people think, I've had enough of Dave now, he's past his sell-by date, he's like, that's it, I'll probably stop, but I do enjoy it.
Too many people start throwing around the term old guard.
If there's a podcast starts again with that, that's it. If that's the opener, opener, I'm getting up, that's it, turned off, I'm out the rig, that's it, it's gone.
Are you tempted to mix business with pleasure, or are you very much like, no, I love the balance that I've got now, so I'm going to try and work completely separate to sim racing? Or have you ever been tempted to sim racing?
Not really. I mean, I do. I do create content for Traction, so I suppose sim racing has led me to that, to creating content for Traction. But I'm my own entity. I can do what I want. There's no. I don't have any restrictions, even with the partners that I've got on the channel, the Hoisingveld and Fanatec, and that's only possible because of the little following that I've got. But I don't have any restrictions with anybody for me to use particular equipment, and I'd like that to continue. Really, I like to be able to do what I want, and I would hate to be in a position where I can't do this because of that. Whereas now I'm as free as a bird. I can do what I want, which is really, really nice. And that may be because I can do what I want and play what I want, and whatever simulator that is, that maybe makes me a little bit more relaxed and enjoy it more, which might come across more in the videos. I don't know. So I would hate to. Yeah, it's like
it's not broke, don't wipe it.
Yeah. It's although yeah. I think with the content I do now, that would never change.
Well, honestly, Dave, I've just looked over and I've noticed what the time is. We're already past 9 o'clock and we need to do
Blimey. Okay.
Honestly, keep talking to you for hours and hours and hours about this, but we should get onto the track. So if anyone is listening and wants to join us, they can find our server or pit for repairs. I'm in the pits. Why is it telling me to pit for repairs? Very odd.
Did you leave it running?
I did leave it running.
Engine's gone.
Oh, so I need to.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I'm a noob. So if you want to join us, then you just go to iRacing, search for the hosted session called Sim Sundays, and the password is Sim Sundays with a capital S and a 1 instead of the first I. But Steve, could you copy and paste that into the chat? That'd be great, please. So, tell us why you chose these 3 tracks.
Well, Watkins Glen, it's one of my favourite tracks. I think it always offers incredible racing, no matter what simulator, no matter what car you drive. There's so many overtaking opportunities here at Watkins Glen, and it's quite historic, Watkins Glen. I just think it's an incredible track, and the GT3 cars, especially, I think around Watkins, it's a good mix between, draft and you can go too wide in a lot of places at Watkins Glen where you can't on a lot of circuits. So you can hold it and you can get an overtake done at Watkins Glen when you go too wide. That's the main reason.
Yeah, I like it. I like the combination of nice long straights and then some tight twisty bits.
Yes.
As well. I love the chicanes. I love something I always think about with Watkins Glen is how forgiving the curbs are.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't seem to be usual. Like the most tracks I find that there's kind of an inherent punishment built into using the curbs, whereas this chicane we're about to go through, you can throw yourself over it almost.
Absolutely.
Four wheels on the curb, and it's so satisfying when you get it right. Not that I expect I've ever got it right, but when I feel like I've got it right, it feels good.
Well, that's one of the biggest differences that I found with ACC actually is the curb, the car's behaviour over the curbs, and I don't think I answered your question earlier on when I started talking about ACC. I think I went off track a little bit.
And that's fine.
But yeah, but ACC, it's completely different. Oh, that's a nice skid. That's a nice skid.
Oh, did you crash into me?
Oh, I did a little bit, yeah. I did a little bit. It's all right, though. So the actual driving style from iRacing to ACC, and we mentioned that briefly before we went on there as well, that you almost do a dance on iRacing because you're never completely just hammering the throttle. You're never completely just slamming on the brakes. You're always doing a little bit of a delicate dance between braking, trail braking, get on the gas nice and smoothly, where ACC is completely different. You're hard on the gas, kind of carrying that heavy braking pretty much all the way to the apex, and then as soon as you get to the apex, you're right on the accelerator, slamming it. You've got to trust the ABS and the TC on ACC,
yeah.
and I don't on iRacing. So that's probably why I found it so difficult. I was driving ACC like I was driving iRacing. So that was the curbs, the tracks are the same, the same layouts, but they're so different on ACC and iRacing. The tracks are so different.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's something that we've spoken about a couple of times with various guests. Is that if you're a racing driver in the real world, you set your car up for a particular track, right?
Yeah.
And at the race that you're doing, and that's kind of it. You set your car up for the nature of the track, in terms of aero and your suspension, if it's particularly bumpy or curvy or whatever it is, and then the length of the race in terms of how much fuel and your strategy, etc. With sim racing, there's this extra. Well, there's kind of two extra levels which are artificial, but I kind of like the fact that there's these two extra levels, and that's one is that your hardware that you're using is A has to be calibrated, but B is the same. It doesn't matter if I'm driving a Formula V on iRacing or a GT3 car in ACC. The brake pedal that I physically feel through my brake is going to be exactly the same. The feedback is exactly the same.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of calibrate your equipment. And the other layer is the actual sim itself. So, if you were racing in the real world, you would race, the car that you're in right now on this track, the same way, minus maybe, the weather, track temperature, etc.
Yeah.
Whereas in sim racing, you have to race it dependent on the sim you're in as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that did take me. I mean, I've got nearly 360 hours on ACC, which is a lot for me to spend that kind of time on a game that isn't iRacing.
Yeah.
And it's taken me that long to think, hang on, and it's only just happened in the last couple of weeks, to be honest. I've only just realised where I'm going wrong. And I've no doubt that a lot of other iRacers that have jumped onto ACC don't realise, we're driving GT3s. We're driving GT3s around Watkins Glen on, it's the same layout. Yeah. BMW M4. It's so different. It's so different. So different. So I was kind of in the top split on iRacing thinking, I'm going to jump on ACC and this is going to be easy. These ACCs so much easier than iRacing. Oh, it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't. It really isn't.
It's just different. It's almost like in the same way that I said earlier that, in F1, in real F1, all the tracks have got different personality.
Yeah.
Well, all the tracks in sim racing have a different personality.
Yeah.
But equally, so does the sim you're in. And the wheel and pedals that you're using.
Definitely.
So
makes a huge
kind of
difference.
Layers upon layers upon layers. But then, if you just taking that into account, on paper, you might argue then that sim racing, with all that in mind, it should be harder to be consistent because there's so many variables that change when you go from environment to environment. And environment, I mean the kind of combination of all those layers we've just discussed.
Yeah.
But actually, I think most people would agree that it's easier to be consistent in sim racing than it is in motorsport because it's a simulation and simulations are predictable, whereas real world motorsport isn't.
Yeah, and I think with sim races, those of us that are really into sim racing, we understand how things are going to change. We understand the differences in track temperature, what that does, and we adapt. I think just like real life racing drivers would adapt. I think as sim racers, we've got a good knack of just adapting what we're doing just to get the most out of the situation that we're in at that time.
Do you play with your setups?
That's a bit personal question.
Yeah.
I've never heard them call that before.
It's we're past the watershed now.
Very rarely, actually. I usually run fixed setup races on iRacing, and I like those because it's a level playing field.
Yeah.
And if I beat somebody, I want to know that it's because I was a little bit faster than them, or if they beat me, then it's nice to know that they beat me fair and square. You can't really blame the setup.
That's a nice way to think about it.
But on Assetto Corsa, I will have a little bit of a tinker. Not too much, because my knowledge of setups isn't great. I'll probably just fiddle with the anti-roll bar. There's another one for you. You can have that one. Maybe another innuendo. I'll probably fiddle with the anti-roll bars, or maybe adjust the rear diff, and maybe the dampers a little bit, but nothing drastic, nothing too much. But I found that on ACC, if you don't have a competitive setup and the tyres on ACC, the tyre pressures, should I say, is like super important. So I don't really tinker too much. I try and stick to the fixed stuff on iRacing, even though I subscribe to setup, providers and things like that, just like everybody, a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
I generally think that shorter sprint races which are fixed, I prefer those ones. I think
it's almost like it's almost like the karting of the sim racing world, isn't it?
Yeah.
People say that karting was pure because you're in the same machinery, and there's less kind of other contributing factors to performance. I suppose.
Yeah.
But what my favourite series in iRacing is the F3 series, the F3 series. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've never really put my finger on it, but I suppose it's probably because if you win, it's because you're faster.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yeah. That's what I like about the fixed. Right? Yeah. The F4, I love the F4 car on iRacing. I don't really drive the F3 too much, but the F4 car is incredible. It's got downforce, but it moves around. My kind of cars are usually high horsepower, rear-wheel drive. Cars that move around a little bit, or the old touring cars, that'll slide around. And the F4 does a really good job of moving around under you, and it's got downforce, so it grips, like crazy. But when it does slide, it's controllable, and I like that. I like the car moving around.
How much skip barber have you done?
Quite a bit. I like the Skippy. That moves around a lot.
I was about to say,
it's a bit of a lottery whether you get it around the corner. That's like drift central. It's crazy. Good fun, but it's not. It's not. It's not really very grippy. It's got worse grip than the Mazda, and that's saying something.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, the Skip Barber I had such a love-hate relationship with, because it nearly put me off of iRacing entirely.
Yeah.
So I'd gone from the Mazda, and I'd done my rookie season, and I just about managed to work out how to put a full race together without coming off the track, and then maybe start thinking about how I actually go fast in it. And I was starting to really enjoy it and have races where I could go door to door with somebody and feel confident, and I loved it. So I got my D license, and I thought, right, what do I want to do next? And I've kind of, because of my initial love for motorsport was in Formula One, I kind of figured that I would build myself this kind of open wheel career. So I'd go up through the classes, and in each class I'd choose an open wheel. And obviously you couldn't do that when I'd started iRacing, because the rookie you only had the Mazda. Now you've got Formula V, so you could do it. Hello.
Don't you door me. Don't you door me.
Not live.
That overtake was like the one in the Formula One today. Did you see that one?
Yeah. There you go.
That's another yellow. Just mimicking today's current.
Obviously,
current.
Obviously, I would have defended, but I just wanted some good content for the
absolutely.
For the podcast,
of course, yeah.
We'll ignore my my 1.4K iRating.
Are you running a setup right now?
I'm not. So Jeff McConey, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, he tweeted you You probably saw
Yes,
it.
yeah.
I'll send you a setup.
Yeah.
But I think he ran out of time just before. But he started to get one together for you. So I'm not
either.
He was like, I don't have a BMW one, but I could get a Ferrari one.
Right.
Although actually you're not in the Ferrari. Did you originally register in the Ferrari?
No. Julie's driving. Julie's on track now. Julie's in the Ferrari. Julie loves the Ferrari.
Well, it would have been a Ferrari setup anyway. So basically, thank you, Jeff. Probably my lack of admin caused us to not have a setup. So I'm just in the base setup with however much fuel was in the car when we got in.
Yeah. I just thought you seemed to be skipping along quite nicely there. I was a little bit worried when we started thinking.
Wait.
I think I just forgot to change gear there, I think. I was looking at your car in the mirror getting bigger and I thought, hang on a second.
Now, I have to admit, I've never raced GT3 on iRacing. But after practicing for today, I'm completely hooked. I'm completely hooked because I'm so used to, the Formula V, which I did a whole season of, the Skip Barber, and then the Formula 3, which, as you say, they move around a lot. So I'm used to focusing far more on... Oh, no, I've got a penalty. Just slow down. I'm used to focusing far more on the driving than I am on the racing. Yeah. Whereas in this, I feel so confident in the car. You have to really go some to lose it. Or turn your traction control off back.
I was just thinking there, I don't seem to have much traction control. I don't know why. It's sliding around a lot.
But it's kind of fun. You can kind of hold it.
Yeah. It's not crazy bad. It just slide, but it's catchable. Not too bad.
So what's Julie's car of choice?
Julie loves the Ferrari in the GT3s.
Oh, so GT3.
GT3 Ferrari. Julie loves that, and she also likes the Formula 4.
Oh, okay.
She's done a few Formula 4 races, and she actually drives that really well. It's not an easy car to drive. It's really, really good fun, but like I say, it does move around a bit, and Julie, countersteers without even realizing that she's countersteering. She's quite good at catching a slide. Yeah, it's just instinctive. So she does really well in the Formula 4. So Formula 4 and the Ferrari in the GT3 class, she really likes. But she had a goal last week. We did the Pickup Cup.
Oh, nice.
And it was like, it doesn't count towards your iRating and safety rating. So we jumped in that and on the oval side. And Julie actually said that she really enjoyed it. So I don't know if that's something that we would try and get her to do in the future. I don't know, because obviously you've got your rookie license on iRacing on the oval side. So you've got to go through the nightmare of trying to get the licenses. And it's really difficult on the oval side. Really difficult because obviously iRacing calculates the incidence on corners per lap or something, so there's not many corners on a
that's a good point.
A 10-minute oval race. There's only it takes a while depending on the track. Your safety rating doesn't go up as much as you'd hope really on the oval side, so it takes a little bit longer, I think.
I think this safety rating system and the competition system that iRacing has is second to none. And I think that's the reason why. So elephant in the room with iRacing is the cost, right?
Of course.
That is the first criticism that anybody will ever make of iRacing. Just because it's
super expensive, definitely.
It's expensive, and it's a commitment. And even though every ACC, AC, F1, it's all software. It doesn't exist as such. There's still but with iRacing, there's that extra layer of, if I stop paying, everything I bought, I also lose. Yeah,
I can't even look at it on a screen anymore. It's like it's gone. That's it. Yeah,
it's pretty depressing.
Yeah, you've just got the emails of your invoices that how much you've spent over the years.
Yeah, well, it's a business expense, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But it is expensive, and there's other sims out there, and I'll always say to people, look, don't pin yourself down to one simulator. Try them all. If you can buy them all, if you've got them all, well, don't just think you've got to drive one. Drive whatever's fun. Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's got to be fun. And I've tried, certain aspects of other simulators, and they're just not fun, and just can't bring myself to do it.
Well, I think so. We were discussing this before the show, but I think for me, iRacing is expensive, but And the subscription model, they're the only ones who do this particular subscription model.
Yeah.
I think it's justifiable because I don't think you're necessarily paying for the content as much as you are the competition system.
Yeah.
And the competition system is live, right? It works in seasons. Whoa!
Yeah.
I was pushing there. Look, you've given me one small compliment about my driving, and now
I know. And then you've gone.
Actually, it's feeling alright.
I'm gonna wait for Julie to come round, I think, as well. See if we can chase Julie for a little bit.
Oh yeah, okay. In fact, yeah. Who's this behind her? Gabriel. Yeah. So you're kind of paying for the. Oh, hello.
Ooh.
You're paying for the. That was close. You're paying for the competition system, which is live, so that it works in seasons, and every season there's different formats, different tournaments, different events, different even sponsors and special events. So it's kind of it's very much a live community, a live kind of tournament that you're buying into.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why they can get away with it. Because if you think, something like ACC, there's leagues you can join that do very similar things. But ACC themselves, they do the odd one-off event. But they don't have that same kind of ongoing commitment to tournaments.
And you think of what you pay for iRacing, you've got access to that 24/7. Like if you pay to enter a league, or you pay your fee to enter a league, you got a league race a week or something. It's like iRacing, you got that 24/7, race as much as you want. There's Julie going now. I better not punt Julie off here, by the way. If you see me quickly exit the server, I've punted Julie off there.
and exit stage left on the camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Whoa.
So yes, I don't think it's bad if you get value for money out of it. If you spend a lot of time on it, it's going to be value for money, isn't it? You're going to get your money's worth. If you race the odd race, then it is expensive. And if you buy the content and you maybe do one race a week or two races a week, it is going to be an expensive hobby. But I've always had some kind of hobby, whether that be motorcycles. I used to do a bit of supermoto, a little bit of motocross, not competitively, just asking about, and that costs a lot. It's like cost a lot of money to do that. If you did hire a track, a few of us used to hire a track, like a small go-kart track at Rowra I used to go to at West Cumbria. Cracking little go-karting track, but superb on a supermoto bike. So if you factor all them kind of costs in it, whatever hobby you do, if you go and play golf, your membership to a golf club, really expensive. By the time you buy your golf bats and your balls and stuff, you're into, serious money. You can spend a lot of money on a driver or a decent putter or whatever it is. A set of darts. So I don't think it's bad. This is my hobby now. So I don't do the motocross, supermoto. I've packed in biking now. I don't have a motorcycle anymore. Can't be bothered to get in and out of the leathers. So when I think of the money I've spent previously, well, this is actually probably one of the cheapest hobbies, and I probably get more out of this than I have done with any other hobby, and it's more accessible.
Work out the £1 per minute.
Yeah, and it's much more accessible than any of the others were. So 24/7, whatever, and it worked brilliantly for me when I was a cop because I worked shifts. So I always had something to do. So if I was on night shift, I'd get up off night shift. Everybody else would be at work or whatever. I could just jump on the rig and do some racing.
Thank you very much. I'm sweating.
Thank you,
I am sweating here. Anybody who's watched any of these podcasts before will know that I am such an amateur sim racer. So the first 5 races, I don't think I completed the race. That's why we've gone to track days, if we're being honest, because my lack of skill. So Danny Juicer was our first guest. He wasn't our first guest. Ryan Coulson was our first guest. Danny Juicer was on second, and we did. In fact, it might have even been this track, and it was a race, right? So this is before I learnt my lesson about doing track days instead of racing. So we did a race, and we kind of announced it to the community. People could get people could get involved and join us on track. It was going to be at this time, blah, 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 blah. So obviously, that's it. It's a race. Once the race has started, everyone is now expecting a race. You can't just restart it because one of the hosts has just
crashed out.
It up. So honestly, maybe halfway around the the first lap, I wasn't concentrating because I was speaking and asking questions. I blew up my engine. So I blew up my engine in the first lap. I was like, oh, well, that was not exactly how I planned to go.
No.
Danny bump drafted me the entire way around the track so I could get into the pits to repair and then carry on the race. So I actually had something to do whilst we were going round. So yeah, that cheeky little send there was not characteristic. But
that was pretty decent. They pretty well executed. That was pretty good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
If I can do the same to Julie on this lap now.
Go on.
Is she going to defend? No.
Go on, Julie, defend.
Oh, she was thinking about it there. She was thinking about it there. It's going to have to be a send. And if I crash, she'll just
Andrew Bailey
wet herself. Oh, I've gone wide. Oh, Julie's back through.
Around the outside of Andrew Bailey.
Oh, I'm getting mugged off here.
3 wide.
Right, here we go. Give you no room on exit. Right, here we go.
It's all on the inside now. I've not got crew chief on because I thought that'd be too much having him as well as talking to you.
I haven't either.
Ah!
Right,
I'm at the back just so I can get a good view for everyone.
It's all about the thumbnail. all about the thumbnail. Oh, just tag the Merc.
Oh, yes, go on. Let me get the outside.
Right, I'm going to have to rethink my strategy here, I think, how I'm going to do this.
We need to do better there. We nearly lost the back end there.
Right. All about the exit.
Anthony Madison is a worthy contender here. He's keeping me on my toes.
Well, Andrew Bailey's keeping me honest here as well. I'm trying to catch up here.
So the whole point of going to track days was so that this wouldn't happen.
Just
so that we could just chat. And what's happened is we've all clumped up on the same bit of track, and now none of us want to give in.
That sends everywhere. Right.
So what I was asking was, bloody, this is the wide line. Is presumably now your friends do know about your YouTube channel. What do they think?
All right, they couldn't believe it that had a little bit of a following on YouTube because it is a huge number, and I don't take the number lightly. I do understand that it's a huge number that I've managed to somehow attain on YouTube, and I think that's probably the most mind-blowing thing to people is that people would tune in and watch Dave because so I think that's probably it. And a few have had to go on the sim rig, and it's pretty cool. It is cool, and they can't believe the hardware. The hardware. It's like when I show them this rim that I've got on now, it's like, what?
So which rim are you using?
I'm using the VPG. It's
I've seen
VRSPG. So it's
is it the one with the LCD screen?
Yeah, LCD. So it's essentially a Porsche. Oh, blimey! Oh, I've just punted chaos. Slow down, Julie.
God.
Is it all kicked off behind? Julie will have to slow down.
I had a big old penalty.
Julie will have to slow down a bit here now, otherwise she's gone. She's gone. I think somebody needs to take over the lead here, I think, and put Julie under some serious pressure, because she just won't run away with this one.
Slows for no one.
Well, she doesn't.
I love that.
Yeah, she's sat right next to me now, and she'll have heard me say Julie needs to slow down. She's put her foot down. She's gained another 2 seconds. She's not slowing down for nobody.
Maybe she hasn't heard you. Maybe she's in the zone.
She has, because she just laughed when I said that. So she can hear every single word that I say. It's funny, I'll say something to Julie and she'll go, eh? What? She can't hear me. Then when I don't want her to hear something, she hears it.
Right, selective hearing.
Exactly.
I'm exactly the same. I have to admit, Julie, I do the same thing. It's a great tactic. Keep it going.
Yeah, she does that all the time.
So, do you ever... Oh, hello, that was a bit aggressive. Do you ever drive the sim to relax? Have you ever just been like, you know what, I've had a tough day, I'm just going to go and do some laps of something, just not to race, not to record, to drive?
I'm running out of fuel here. Yes, I do. Not very often. Oh, I'm running out of fuel, this Merc's coming behind us. I do, and I've said to people before that sim racing it's almost like some kind of weird meditation. You know, when you're in the rig, or when I'm in the rig, I don't think of anything else. You know, when you're driving around, no, you can't. And it is, you know, some people will go and sit cross-legged somewhere and meditate, or however they do it. It's probably not how you meditate. That's how I imagine people meditate. But it's probably not how you do it.
That's how they do it in the emojis.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So if you are emoji meditating, that's how you do it.
I tried to do that. I tried meditating, and I tried the cross-legged thing, and I got cramped in about 20 minutes.
Yeah. I've realised
relaxing thing I've ever done.
I've realised that lately I can't sit cross-legged for too long. You know, I sat down on just next to my rig here, trying to repair my NASCAR rim because it fell off, and I was trying to find some small nuts. There's another one for you. I was trying to find some small nuts to fit.
This is one for the medley.
That's one for the adult one. Yeah. And I sat down cross-legged for about 10 minutes, and I stood up, and I could hardly walk. That's age for you, that's age. I don't know if I'm just kind of morphing into the shape that I am in the rig right now. That'll just be, you know, when you see all these old people walking like hunched over, that will be me, just because my back will be the shape of a Sparko seat.
Yeah, but but rather than just be like, sat at a desk, you're like, yeah, look, this is what happens when you're an athlete.
This is what happened. Yeah, I've got athletic back. Yeah, you can just see Sparko at the top of my shoulder blades, you know, imprinted. Yeah. So
if you do, if you're going to go and do some relaxing driving on the sim, what sim car track combo would you go for? If you were just like, I've just had such a tough day, I'm going to go and relax on the sim, what would you load up?
The Nordschleife, definitely the Nordschleife, because it takes so much concentration to get around there at the best of times. So you've got to be switched on, and I think, and you know, a lot of people know that I haven't had the best year this year, but my older brother passed away, and Julie, bless her, she's there for me. But even in 2018, when my dad passed away, sim racing played a big part in just taking my mind off things, and it did exactly the same this year when my brother passed away. It just takes your mind off things. So yeah, you can have all of these things going on in life, but you get in the rig, and you just forget. It just helps you forget. So it's kind of some form of meditation. So I would jump in a car at the Nordschleife, and I would drive some car with a H-pattern shifter, whether that be the Lotus 79 or the Audi 90 GTO, like an old school 80s, 70s, 80s car with a H-pattern shifter, a bit of heel and toe, where you've got to really you put a bit into it to get it around the track. So that's what I love to do. I love to drive those, you know, 70s, 80s cars. Absolutely love them.
I honestly, I'm the same. So the Nordschleife is also my go-to if I just want to relax. Just load the Nordschleife. I honestly, to be honest, it's a different car every time. Probably. There isn't one that I would go to, but I do like to listen to music as well.
Right.
When I'm in relaxed mode. Yeah. I think it's because I'm so competitive. If I don't have music, then I don't have that distinction between I'm sim racing versus I'm just relaxing. Yeah. And then pull over, because I think I saw Julie smashing out on the start-finish.
Did you? I think she might be in the pits. Yes, she is.
I knew first because I actually heard Julie scream through your... Oi!
Hey!
I joined her in the pits.
That was unintentional. I didn't mean that, honestly.
Outrageous! I can't believe it.
You play with fire, you get burned.
You come round here to Sim Sundays.
And I start just punching everybody left, right, and centre.
You're not invited back.
I know. I killed Andrew in the Mercedes, and I've just punted you off there. Apologies. That was unintentional.
So it's because you've not got your crew chief. I feel like I'm driving one-handed without my crew chief.
Yes, I did load the program up earlier on. Thought, right, when we go on track, I'll just click start spotting up with crew chief, and I forgot.
Yeah,
I completely forgot. I was too keen to get out.
I've been on to the crew chief website, and I've gone through their contact details, and I've Googled it, and I've looked on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to find the voice of crew chief for an episode of the podcast, because I think it would just be excellent. I think that guy...
Yeah, his name's Jim, isn't it? Did you find him?
No, I didn't. I didn't manage to find him.
Yeah, I'll find him for you.
Oh, that'd be great. He plays such a massive part in a lot of people's lives. He's like their buddy.
Yeah. I think I heard an interview with him on, I can't remember what it was now. It's him, it's crew chief. You know, it's Jim.
That's crazy.
And his name's Jim. I believe.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'll find it and I'll get you his details.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I love all the swearing packs that you.
Yeah. Well, I put those on Julie's rig without her knowing. You know, the sweary thing, and she recorded a video. And the first time we swore, she absolutely, you know, she was in the right king. Like, yeah, she was in hysterics, but she didn't expect him to say what he said. You know, like quite derogatory about the car in front. You know, get on the back of him. Yeah.
So funny. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you know, when you use sim racing for that kind of escape, you just want to switch off.
Yeah.
I find that it's little things like crew chief, that kind of that routine, that kind of familiar familiar experience. In this case, it's the voice.
Yeah.
Familiar voice. You know, when it's you know, when you load in for the first time and you tell you that the track
radio check,
gone up or down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, or the radio check when you first start.
It's just a radio check. Yeah, he's like, right, I'm on now. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Relax into your day.
Yeah.
I love it.
It is. It's so familiar though, isn't it? It is, and the amount of people that use it now, and the fact that it's still a free program. You know, you don't have to buy it to use it. You know, obviously you can donate to to those guys if you enjoyed using it. But considering it's a free program, it's incredible. It really is incredible. There's so much data that it can tell you, and obviously you can use your voice activation and things like that, so you can actually talk to your crew chief. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy.
Well, we had this chat with GP Laps. I don't know if you know GP Laps.
Yeah.
So GP Laps, for those who don't know, does a lot. Oh God, I keep doing that. He does a lot of like historic sim racing. So he'll go in an old car, but what he also does, which I think is awesome, is he'll get a mod of the old track. So we did. In fact, we did Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen seems to be a choice in this.
Right.
But it was the 60s version, so there are no barriers here.
Yeah.
The layout was completely different. I'm not giving you that corner. The track layout was completely different, and there were like hay bales around the outside. And one of my numerous trips to the hay bales, I noticed that there were characters that he'd built in stood by the hay bale.
Wow.
And they were wearing like 60s clothes.
Right.
And as I was sat there with my car, smoking, the bonnet was all shriveled up. I was just thinking, do you know what? The level of passion that you find in communities like this, and not just racing, not just gaming even, the level of passion you find is absolutely astounding. The thing that really got me is that I think I just went to a race department and downloaded it, for free. But you probably spent, I don't know,
countless hours,
countless hours building that. At the end of it, they were like, right, let's just give it to a load of people who might enjoy it. I don't know who they are. I'll never know who they are. But I'm just going to give it away, and I just think that is just the magic of this.
I did that last week actually with a historic version of the Nordschleifer. I got the new Racing Studio, the 70s or the 1970s F1 car with the Cosworth engine. I bought that, and I thought, right, I'd like to drive that on. I was thinking about doing a video, and I'd like to drive that on a historic version of the Nordschleifer, and I did just like race departments and got that one and grabbed a historic version of Spa, grabbed that one. It's like terrifying when you look at them now and how they used to race and things like that. Terrifying. But yeah, like you say, somebody's just spent all that time and effort creating this mod, and then just, here you go guys, just use it for free.
It's kind of beautiful.
It is, it really is.
Right. Oh my God. It's 20 to 10. Ah! Sorry, that wasn't intentional. That was a
brake check.
Yeah,
it wasn't. I know a brake check when I see one.
I didn't. It's because I was looking at my phone. I was looking at my phone to see what the time was. I suddenly thought, it feels like we've been going a good 15, 20 minutes now. We best wrap up for the last 10 minutes of questions. But we're actually 8 minutes overdue, and that's because
Blimey.
It's so much fun. So I'm going to...
Holy cow.
Because poor Steve is...
Well, sorry for keeping you so long. I apologise.
But... Yeah, come on,
I'm
Dave.
just gonna... Yeah, you can have that. You can have that for free.
Outrageous. God, the incident points.
I know, yeah.
I should have been ranked.
Yeah.
Right. Close that down. Right, well, usually what we would do is go through some questions here, but we've actually run out of time. We're honestly going to have to do this again because that was so much fun.
It was.
But I've lost you. Where are you? There you are. Oh my God, I've just installed this second screen.
I'm actually sweating. It's actually really warm in here.
I'm sweating.
Two sim rigs running in a small room with a light on.
Absolutely dripping. I'm in an office as well. The window's shut because there's a spoons out there and it's ridiculously noisy.
All right. Oh, blimey.
But Dave, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
And it was really good to hear about how you got here. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again. Is there anything you want to say to the community or anyone who listens to the podcast?
Just thank you, everybody, for watching everybody's sim racing videos, really, everybody's content, and that helps drive people towards it and makes people aware of this small niche little hobby that we've got. So yeah, to keep supporting the guys that you watch. I do. It doesn't have to be a financial support. Just keep watching, liking stuff, and people keep doing it. And then everybody, before we know it, everybody's going to be sim racing. It's going to be amazing, isn't it?
The goal. No less than everybody.
Yeah, and if anybody sees me at the Expo, come and say hello. Don't be a Tom and watch me outside McDonald's for like 15 minutes. Like, come and say hello. Yeah, just like licking his hash brown. There's another one for you. Yeah, but yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Thank you. Really do.
Honestly, anytime. That was so much fun. And I will see you at Expo as well. We've got our team of racing against the likes of William and Shadow. Wow. Honestly, I'm absolutely baffled. I can't believe it. The guys are buzzing for it. It's such a massive event for them. So I'm so pleased it's going to happen. So yeah, it's going to be a great Expo. But
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, looking forward to it.
So yeah, thank you for coming on the show. Thanks everyone.
My pleasure.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Yes.
If you want to listen to any more episodes, you can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just type Sim Sundays and all our episodes are there. Dave's episode will be out next Sunday, 6 a.m. Every Sunday we have a new episode. And as always, this episode was sponsored by Trak Racer, which is this incredibly sweaty rig that I've been sat in. So thank you to them for providing this for me to just soil over the next few years. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.